It's another edition of Healthline on OGBC 290.5 FM. And today, we want to look at female genital mutilation, FGM. Female genital mutilation was celebrated on the 6th of February 2019. And of course, we just believe that, well, this is one area that we've not really touched on this program. But I have that privilege of having with me in the studio Mr. Shola Fagurusi from Onelife Initiative for Human Development. Some victims will be telling us their stories, how they were mutilated, and we also would like to know from them, from Onelife Initiative for Human Development, the disadvantages of female genital mutilation. Of course, I'm not sure there's any advantage, but Mr. Shola Fagurusi will be telling us this. You are welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. So we're talking about female genital mutilation. What actually prompted your own initiative to go in that line?
Okay, so what is being commemorated, around the world during this period is what we know as the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. So the world is saying, look, we have zero tolerance for this. So currently you have about 28 countries across the world. Not just in Africa, we're also talking of, diaspora community. We have cases in UK, we have cases in US where female genital mutilation is actually practiced. And in terms of data, in terms of number again, we're saying that there are about 200 million girls and women that have been caught across the world. Now, the real, interest here is that Nigeria carries the biggest burden. 10% of this entire population is actually here in Nigeria. So we're saying 20 million girls and women between ages 15 to 49 in Nigeria, according to the National Demographic and Health Survey report, of 2013, shows that is the number of people that have been caught. So these survivors of female genital mutilation, again, we need to say, how do we ensure that we don't have new cases? How do we ensure that we can actually give some form of support to women and girls such that they can actually lead normal lives? How do we ensure that the future generation of fathers and mothers also understand the subject and they again do not actually bring their girls into this fray of female genital mutilation? Again, I think it's also important to say that yes, several people know this as female circumcision.
Yeah.
But we're saying that because of what happens, there's a tendency to actually equate it to male circumcision. But because of what happens, it is called female genital mutilation because to mutilate means to damage, to cause harm, to cause injury, to a particular part or to something. And that's exactly what happens with female genital mutilation. And by definition, the World Health Organization says female genital mutilation is, injury to all or part of the external female genitalia, part or all of the, external female genitalia for cultural or non-medical reason. If it's been done, for medical purposes, if it's been done, because something needs to happen to the woman, for example, a gland needs to be removed, then it's not female genital mutilation. But in a case where people actually come and then use different kinds of objects, knives, sharp objects to actually cut the woman, so much so that we even have 4 different types of female genital mutilation.
We'll come to that, but then I want us to get the message right, and I think it's well captured in this jingle.
Nigeria has the highest number of female genital mutilation cases worldwide. Circumcising a girls and women has serious health implications. It is an infringement on the rights of women and girls. Do you know that female genital mutilation is a major cause of birth complications, maternal mortality, infections and diseases, and inability to enjoy sex? Please hear this. It is not true that circumcising girls and women prevents promiscuity. Remember, a harm done to a woman is a harm done to the whole nation. Let's join hands to keep our girls and women safe by putting an end to female genital mutilation in this generation. This message is from Onelife Initiative for Human Development. For more information, call 0829 423 2675.
Make it a better place. That's the message captured very aptly too. But then I want you to enlighten us the more. What message are you trying to pass across as it is on this occasion, February 6th of every year?
Okay, so again, we're trying to use this opportunity to say, like, look, people have different reasons why they do this. Okay. People are attached to their, to their culture. We've had professors, we have doctors who actually engage, will say my daughter needs to be mutilated.
Really?
Yeah, so it's not about, how educated, for example, you are. Data also shows that, in urban centers where you have, that are melting points of culture, you have a lot of people still do that. It will also shock you to know that people export circumcisers. So let's say, for example, there's a Nigerian community in Belgium, and they believe in this this culture. So they will come together. Oh, you have a 5-year-old daughter, I have a 3-year-old. They'll come together, pay and bring in a circumciser who would come into the country to actually mutilate the girl.
Communal.
Yes, because again, it's culture. Our culture defines us. Our culture tells us who we are. You are dressed in a native attire simply because this is what your culture also comments in terms of trying to promote your culture. So it's a big deal to people, and then there are different myths around why people also do this. Some people say, for example, that the girl will become promiscuous if you don't cut her. But again, we have evidences to show that look, whether a girl will become promiscuous or not has to do with how parents actually would raise the child, how guardians, how members of the community will actually support the upbringing of the child. People say, for example, if you don't cut the clitoris, the girl will start having will start scratching and all of that. But we know that we're talking about sanitary hygiene here. So if the girl has been putting on the same pants for about 10-20 times, she plays in the sand and she's not properly washed, of course she would scratch. So there are multiple evidences again showing us very clearly that female genital mutilation has no health benefit whatsoever. So much so that like I was trying to say earlier on, that we have 4 different types. It looks like people made mistakes. So some parts will say we cut the clitoris alone. Some other parts will say no, we're not cutting the clitoris alone. We're cutting the labia, the labia minora. Some other people will say, oh no, we are scraping off the entire labia majora, everything, and then they stitch that opening, the external genitalia, just to leave a little opening, for the woman to actually urinate or to pass, menstrual flow. So, and this is not, I'm not talking something very far away from us. This also happens in some parts of Nigeria here. Interestingly, we're here in Ogun State. Ogun State has one of the lowest, cases of, prevalence. We have about 11.2 compared to states, where we have, the major burden. But again, we're saying this because we also have people from different parts of the country who reside here in Ogun State. Osun State has the highest prevalence in Nigeria from the NDHS, followed by Ebonyi State, followed by Ekiti State, followed by Imo State, and then followed by Oyo State again. So here in Ogun State, we've also had cases of people actually have had different parts of Ogun State as well. Ilaro, for example, where there are still cases. And Ogun State also presents us with a very good example of group of people who don't do female genital mutilation. So you hear people say Ijebu Nibondi, to deride them, to say that look, the clitoris is almost as equivalent to putting a gun underneath. But again, there is no data showing that girls in Ogun State, for example, are more promiscuous than girls in Oyo State. So which again defeats that argument that it's actually something that would actually help stop promiscuity. So we've told parents, we've told mothers, and we're also bringing clergies into the picture. So people come around and say on the pretext of religion that look, the Bible says, the Quran says, we've brought religious leaders together. They've looked at these issues. They've unpacked the entire concept of female genital mutilation to say that the Bible or the Quran does not recommend it. And then what are we finally also asking of religious leaders? Because our people are also very religious people. So we're saying that when religious leaders, whether pastor, imam, or traditional leaders, go for naming ceremony, they should mention it to the hearing of all the relatives, because usually here in the southwestern part of Nigeria, it is done on the same day, sometimes on the 8th day or the 7th day when the child is actually going to be named. We're also saying that when young people who are going to be future fathers and mothers also come for counseling in churches, in mosques, that the clergy should also bring this subject to the table. We did this with HIV/AIDS, and then people started doing testing before marriage, that they should also bring this subject and say, look, when you have a female child, are you going to do this? You are not supposed to do this. You are not supposed to cut the girl, simply because it has no health benefit whatsoever.
Yes, thank you very much. I was almost trying to cut you there, but I want us to listen to some victims. We've had victims.
Yeah, we call them survivors because we are trying very strongly to ensure that they are not victimized.
Okay.
So we call them survivors. They are not stigmatized, rather. Okay. We call them survivors.
They've been victims, but they survived.
Yeah, so we call them survivors.
I think it's better for our listener to now listen to their own testimony, how it happened, and what they were able to do about that. So we'll have stories about how they were mutilated. Let's listen to them and then we'll react.
It happened in 2002 during the Easter festive period. I went to Oyo town to visit my grandma. I met with my other cousins. They also came around to celebrate the Easter with grandma. One of them came with her mother, my aunt. One day, I overheard grandma asking my aunt if her daughter, my cousin, had been circumcised, and my aunt replied that people no longer circumcise their girls. Grandma replied that circumcision is not bad and asked if my aunt was not circumcised. I did not pay much attention, but I heard my aunt say okay. Towards evening that same day, a man and a woman aged 50 or so came into the house. They were wearing Ankara and came with a sack. Grandma introduced them to us, and we were about 4 girls of the same age. She said they came to see us and want to check if we were virgins, and also to do something special for us that will benefit our future husbands. We were scared, but our visitors told us not to worry, that it would just take few minutes. The sack the circumciser came in with contained different kinds of instruments. My cousin was led in first. We heard her scream, and it took about 40 minutes before she came out, in between which one man was invited in to join them inside the room. I realized that the man joined them to hold her down so that she could be mutilated. The circumcision was performed on Mama's table, where she keeps stuff and plays her lantern. Within 40 minutes, the female circumciser was rushing in and out for water and cotton wool. Then I noticed that something was not right. When my cousin eventually came out, she could barely walk. Her clothes were stained with blood. Grandma told me I'm next and that I should enter the room. I ran, and my two other cousins followed suit. We came back at night. My cousin that was mutilated was in great pain. She could not sleep. She was crying and her bleeding did not stop. We took her to hospital early the next morning, and by then we had to place a towel on the seat, but she could not make it. She died on the way. The parents were sad, and the mother could not forgive herself for consenting to FGM. The family could not prosecute the circumciser without implicating grandma. My late cousin was 16 years. Mama was sad about the whole incident, but she strongly believed that another woman who lives in front of the house was behind the mishap. According to her, the woman has a mirror which she monitored her movements. She said the woman was unhappy with her because she is blessed with grandchildren and the other woman was without one. The whole incident plays a lot of strain on the family relationship even till now.
Onelife Initiative for Human Development gathered this story from her field work on FGM, supported by Global Media Campaign to End FGM. This testimony was read by Awoshika Oluwajedalo Ayomide.
My country people.
Nigeria na him be oga for the wahala of court of punani for the world wey oyinbo man dey call female genital mutilation FGM. Mama pale post everybody dem make I tell una say if you dey do this kind bad thing na im be say una dey trespass on top our girl pikin plus women dem right to. This kind bad thing sef dey make women no dey fit born pikin, dey make omoyan no dey sweet for dem, even sef fit cause make woman kpai. Make una no forget say na ogbonge lie say woman pikin wey dem no cut her punani go dey follow man up and down, and make una remember say woman wey wan follow man go dey follow am wella. Country people, time don reach o wey this kind yamayama thing must stop. Oya, make we gather and join body come pursue this kind thing comot for we area patapata. Make we see say our girls and women dey safe papampa for this court wey oyinbo man dey call female genital mutilation. Unto say injury to one woman na injury to we society o. This message na from Onelife Initiative for Human Development.
It's still Healthline on OGBC 90.5 FM, and we're talking about FGM, female genital mutilation. We all heard that young lady's story, and the victim here is a 16-year-old girl. At such an age, an adolescent, what would you say? Normally, even if such things were to be done for male children, the circumcision would have taken place when they were much younger. But in this situation, we heard this story. What can we attach to that?
So it's a context in which their own culture, for example, looks at it as an initiation into motherhood. So this is a story. Someone came into the office, narrated this. The lady who narrated the story to us is actually the other cousin who was supposed to be in. Yes. But it just happened that the other cousin,
the victim did not survive.
Yes, she didn't survive. She didn't survive this. So very clearly, we saw different patterns. We saw issues around hemorrhaging. We saw issues around trauma. Yes. We saw issues around the shock. Was just too much for her. We also saw the fact that when it comes to the human body, the authorities and medical professionals, doctors, nurses, there is no part in the training for medical doctors where you have female genital mutilation as a subject being taught to be done. So it's currently even criminal. The same thing, with nurses and midwives as well. Even though we're beginning to see a trend of medicalization, people saying that, oh, okay, so you're saying that we should stop doing this. Oh, but what if we get, a professional? There is nothing like a professional in doing female circumcision, what we call female genital mutilation. The angle of the law is also very apparent here, and that's why we're trying to, do a lot in terms of behavior change communication. So we're seeing that it's almost going to be difficult to actually prosecute. We have what we call the VAP Act, which was signed by President Goodluck Jonathan in 2015. We have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which actually criminalizes this, a 4-year imprisonment and a 200,000 fine. 13 states in Nigeria actually have laws against female genital mutilation. But pray, ask, how do you go and report your grandma? How do you go to the police, for example, and say that, oh, it's my father that actually got my sister mutilated? So these are the worrisome trends we have seen around this. And so we're saying that, look, we also have, beneficial culture. We have harmful cultural practices. You remember, at some point, when parents used to feed children, you force feed the child.
Sometimes they turn them upside down. And we've lost children because of this. We also have had instances where they will put, a piece of wet clothes on their lantern, and then you use it to actually, so we've had this culture. Some of them are anachronistic, some of them are no longer beneficial, but we're saying also that we also have very beneficial, culture. Training your child, the entire community trains the child, and again, culture is not static. Culture is dynamic. It moves from time, it changes based on trends, especially in the face of evidence. We're saying that it doesn't have any medical, benefit. And if it doesn't have any medical benefit, then why exactly are we cutting? And if you look at the organ that is being cut, the clitoris, you should also ask that, what is the function of the clitoris in a woman's body? It is for sexual, enjoyment, sexual pleasure. And that itself is also a human right. Every woman, woman actually has a right to actually, enjoy herself sexually as well. And that's why we're having cases where the husband gets married to a woman, for example, and then the husband begins to say the woman is frigid because even if she had survived it, for example, she would have been scared, scarred for life, because it also means that for every time anybody wants to touch that part of her body, the memories would actually flood her mind. So these are issues around this. So we're saying that, how do we ensure that we don't have repeat of this? How do we ensure that we don't have cases, like this, that possibly would even lead to, issues of maternal mortality? Because what this also means is that, like in some of the cases where you have scar, it's a wound already that turned into a scar. When the woman actually wants to give birth, then there is nothing to actually hold that part of the body together, then it tears easily. We've had cases that lead to vesico-vaginal fistula, which means that the woman can no longer control urination herself. There's a center, in Ebonyi, the National Obstetrics and Fistula Center. About more than 80% of the cases of people at that center, and remember I said that Ebonyi has the second highest incident, more than about 80% of cases at that center are actually as a result of female genital mutilation. So that's why we're saying that, yes, we know that, yes, this is a part of culture. Culture is beautiful, culture is lovely, but we need to begin to bring people to the point where they can change behavior, especially also our men, who would usually be complacent and say, look, it has nothing to do with me, grandma and your mother should go and do that. We need men in our households to put their feet on the ground, because again, the buck stops at your table as the head of you should be able to also protect your daughter in addition to the support you get from your wife. If you are confused about what to do, what we also recommend is go into any private or any teaching hospital. Any helpline.
Sit a doctor down.
Any helpline. Yes. For the purpose of people who may want to reach out.
What we're saying very carefully, very, very obviously rather, is we want people to tell their stories, because this is also going to engineer behavior change. You want to share your stories without putting your name. You want this confidentially. You can call 080-942-32675. Again, it's 080-942-32675. And then our One Life initiative is being supported by the Global Media Campaign to End, female genital mutilation. They're currently working in Mali, working in Kenya, working in Nigeria, working in the Gambia as well, just to make sure that we can actually have a critical mass of people, especially through, media platforms like your own radio station here, to make sure that we know that for every 10 households, data has shown us that there are 8 homes that actually have a radio. There's a radio in every house that people can actually get this message.
Mr. Ashola Faguruse, I'll still want us to take maybe another testimony.
Okay.
Because, sometimes people learn from other people's experiences. Okay. All these things that we're saying, they want to hear from the people how it happened. Somebody right now may just need that intervention. So maybe we should take another testimony.
Please, let's do.
I heard about FGM on the radio. Initially, I don't understand what female genital mutilation FGM means until I got married and gave birth. I gave birth in 2003 while staying with my mother-in-law. Before I gave birth, my sister-in-law had a baby boy about 3 months old, and a woman helped her circumcise her son. I don't know where the woman resides. After my delivery, my mother-in-law called the same woman to circumcise my daughter. When my girl turned 3, I noticed that where she was cut had swollen, formed a cyst, and was growing. I wondered what it could be whenever I bathed her. By the time she became 8 years, it had grown very big. This cyst is round, and it is just on the part where her clitoris was removed. It was then I began to think about the negative effects FGM had on her. I called my mother-in-law and she told me that we should re-circumcise her. I began to pray until one day when it had become really big. That was in 2010. I took her to a health center within her area and was opportune to see the matron, and she recommended some drugs costing about 1,000 naira or so. I paid for her drugs immediately and it was administered on her. I was called from her school later that day that she was sleeping in class. I told them that it is because she was given injection. The girl had not completed the 3 days of injection and her drugs when I noticed she was dull and began to lose her memory. This made me stop the medications. Even with the drugs used on her, the swelling did not reduce or disappear. I continued praying until one day when I explained to one of my customers. He exclaimed and chastised me for keeping it to myself. I followed his advice and took her to UCH Ibadan. With the back and forth at the hospital, we eventually saw the doctor who referred us to the laboratory for tests. After this series of tests, we were asked to come for drugs monthly. Later, it became 16 days and 8 days. When we were almost rounding up our treatment for 8 days, we were asked to see the doctor again. He tested her and told us that the cyst needs to be operated. This was in 2010. On the day of the operation, we came in last due to traffic. We were reprimanded for it and told to wait till around 9. The doctor in charge was nice as he helped us during and after the operation. We spent a total of 35,000 naira for treatment in the hospital, and imagine we paid only 500 naira for her to be circumcised. As at that time, I was a trader and sold provisions, but now I teach in a private nursery and primary school. I have 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. I did not circumcise my second daughter after the difficult experience with my first daughter. Female genital mutilation is bad. It has no advantage.
Onelife Initiative for Human Development gathered this story from her field work on FGM, supported by Global Media Campaign to End FGM. The story and experience of this mother was read by Tosin Ishola.
Bí a ti ń dábẹ́ fún àwọn ọmọbìnrin lórílẹ̀‐èdè yìí ló ń ṣokùnfà ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wàhálà táwọn obìnrin ń kojú lágbàáyé. Ìwà yìí sì jẹ́ ọ̀nà kan sàn tá a fi ń tẹ̀ ẹ̀tọ́ àwọn ọmọbìnrin mọ́lẹ̀ tó sì jẹ́ wípé eléyìí ń yọrí sí àìrọ́mọbí, ikú aláboyún, àrùn àti àìlèjẹ̀gbádùn ìbálòpọ̀ bó ti tó àti bó ti yẹ. Ẹgbẹ́ eléyìí òótọ́ kan ò sí nínú ìgbàgbọ́ tá a ní pé tí wọn kò bá dábẹ́ fọmọbìnrin a máa mú kí wọ́n di ẹni tó ń ṣòwò nàbì. Ó wá nílò ká pa ojú ọ̀rẹ́ dà lórí ọ̀rọ̀ yìí nítorí pé ìpalára tá a bá ṣe fún ọmọbìnrin ó jẹ́ ìpalára sí orílẹ̀-èdè lápapọ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ ká dìde ṣọ̀kan láti dáàbò bo àwọn obìnrin wa ká sì yàgò fún dídábẹ́ fún wọn. Ẹ jẹ́ ká fi wọ́n sílẹ̀ bí Ẹlẹ́dàá ṣe dá wọn torí obìnrin ni iyọ̀ ayé. Ìkéde yìí wá láti ọ̀dọ̀ àjọ Onelife Initiative for Human Development.
Obìnrin ni mí.
Mr. Fagoru say in this other testimony that we just shared, we see that it is a mother that actually took her own baby for the circumcision. In all this, what do you have to say? And what would be your advice?
And it was also the same mother that also allowed our own child to also be circumcised.
That's what I'm saying.
So, very clearly, we respect our mothers, our parents, our grandparents. Remember again that they do not do this because they hate the child. They are doing it because they love the child. I remember a case.
Is it out of ignorance?
Yes, it's basically out of ignorance. I remember a case we had where, the mother, the nurse was actually explaining to us that, so this woman had just a child, and then she made sure that everything people were recommending, whether herbs, so if you see, the girl's teeth, all brown because of herbs, or people said you needed to mutilate her, she did that. Everything that they were recommending, she did. And the woman, apparently because of the harm of, FGM that was done on her, she couldn't conceive, through natural birth, all through. She had to do. See, I'm not saying that this is the only reason why we have CS, but I'm saying that it could also be a reason, for, some cases of CS, like in that example. So I'm saying very clearly that, our mothers out there need to do more than just, take on, some of this culture. Our girls out there as well, if you're already if you're already a teenager, and you're hearing them say they're going to mutilate you so that you can be a good girl, so that, your child will not die during birth and all of that, if it has to do with your body, tell your parents that, no, you've heard very clearly that female genital mutilation has no form of health benefit whatsoever. If your parents are still in dispute and all of that, take them, go with them to actually tell them you will not do that until you both see a doctor together. Okay, at least a doctor should actually know really better. Tell them you will not do that until you get to the Ministry of Health, together with them, as well. So I think, the more people know, the more fathers also get in the picture, and fathers also act concerned and not say, oh, whatever grandma says, whatever, my wife says is final on this. We're saying that people should actually put heads together to make sure that the quality of life for the girl child. And so Onelife Initiative for Human Development is based in Ibadan, your state. We work with different individuals, media, contact as well, journalists as well, to make sure that we can actually get this information across. You want to verify any information, you have questions about this, you want to share your own story as well, whether you've had a very bitter experience, and we want to use this to actually encourage several people, because we know that people can easily connect to other people's stories. That's why we have this series called My FGM Story. You can call us on 080-94-232-675. I take it again, 080-94-232-675. And if you want to send us an email, you have the tech generation. It's contact@onelifeinitiative.org. You can send us an email. We will not disclose your identity, just like we didn't for the stories of this individual story. We had to get other people to voice it so that they can keep their details personal, and then they are not stigmatized at the end of the day.
Thank you so much for finding time to be with us on this program today.
Thank you for having me,
Mr. Shola Fagurusi, and especially to Onelife Initiative for Human Development. Thank you for this campaign. We really appreciate you, and it's a good thing that even you as a man, you are so passionate about it, and so many men out there are also very passionate about it. So that's the program today on Healthline. I want to thank my producer Yemisi Shodikpo and the studio manager Femi Akinola. My name is Toyin Shogweson. Together we'll reach you next week again. Thank you.